Hello, hello, and welcome to the Optima Method. Here we are going to focus more on the business process mapping project timeline. So as you can see here on the screen, I've got a template that I have started, and I will be working through the remainder of the project to make sure that I've got everything documented, ready to go. So a couple of highlights here. The purpose of this document is really to document, analyze, optimize, and standardize key business processes to improve efficiency, accountability, and scalability. So that's ultimately the purpose of the business process mapping project. So what I'm documenting here is the different phases for this project and really identifying the key tasks for each one of them. And from here, I will provide the task detail. I will input my own start and end date as well as the status, which is either not started, in progress, not applicable, on hold, or complete. It's all going to start off in a not started status and then adding the owner. So as an owner, if you are a small business owner, you're going to be logging your name across the board, which is okay. It might be overwhelming. And while this project is supposed to be about a 12-week timeline, you may see this taking a little bit longer if you're doing this by yourself with other priorities, competing priorities that you're working through. If you are part of a larger organization, this is easier to be able to identify key stakeholders for each of these tasks and really come back from a governance standpoint to come back together and see where we are from a percentage completion. With that being said, I'm actually going to have that column in here so that way we can track percentage completion, especially if you are the overall stakeholder to monitor this entire project timeline. You want to be able to articulate the percentage completion to really bubble this up into the overall percentage completion of the entire project timeline. So with that being said, for week or phase one, we're going to be focusing on the project initiation and planning. The duration of this is, it's about 8 tasks. I think it's 8 tasks. Yep, 8 tasks. And it takes about a week on average, right? More or less depending on how fast you can get through. So you're first going to define the project objective, success criteria. From there, you're going to identify the key stakeholders who are going to be part of this business process mapping project. You're going to determine the scope of the processes to be mapped. So really understanding what you're trying to accomplish, what needs to be included, what actually also needs to be excluded, and that is not part of this project is extremely important. Establish project governance structure, meaning that how are we going to communicate between the different stakeholders? Are we meeting on a weekly basis to go over every single task? Because there will be subtasks for each one of them. So you can really make this project timeline really robust. Under each one of them, you can add additional tasks and additional owners. From there, you're going to develop a project timeline and milestones, kind of similar to what I'm doing here, creating the project timeline and milestones for this particular timeline for the business processing mapping project. From there, we're going to schedule a kickoff meeting, create a communication plan, and assign project roles and responsibilities. This is extremely critical because you want to always understand who's responsible, what are they going to be doing, how are they going to be part of the entire project from start to finish, assigning it, but also defining it. That way, no one just walks away thinking that they know what they're doing when they actually don't. Okay? So from here, what you're going to get out of this is, from a deliverable standpoint, you're going to get project charter, stakeholder register, project timeline, and a communication plan. So phase number 2, sorry, I'm just going to copy and paste it because it is a little bit easier, but phase 2, you're going to have process discovery. This process is about 1 week, so that will be week 2. And let's map out the different tasks. So I'm looking at my notes here, but also typing at the same time. So we're going to identify all business functions. We are going to complete inventory of existing processes, review the current SOPs and documentation, And guess what? If you don't have it yet, that's okay. You're actually going to be creating it as part of this process as well. So if this is, let's say you don't have any current SOPs, if you are a brand new business owner, you're just going to mark this as not applicable, meaning that you're not going to work through that phase because it's just not there for you to work through. So don't waste your time trying to review current SOPs and documentation if it doesn't exist. Conduct stakeholder interviews. So this means that you are going to be talking to everyone who will be involved to really understand part of the process today, the good, the bad, the ugly. You want to know the details to be able to document it and have it part of the discovery. From there, you're going to gather any forms, templates, and reports. Because eventually, as you're building the SOPs, you're going to eventually want to link it into the documentation and have it all in one place. Then you're going to identify the process owners, document the current pain points, and collect baseline performance data. There we go. So this is at a core what you're going to do. If for any reason you feel like you need more information and go into more granular, feel free to do so because this will actually help build it out. This is just a basic standard process that I'm documenting here to show you how to outline it, how to get organized, how to get thoughts on paper. It's going to take some time to even get to this. So while I'm doing it really fast here is because I did some work prior to this call just to get everything organized, ready to go, so I can show you in a more rapid way. Okay. So then let's go through to phase 3. So phase 3, here we are going to be talking about current state process mapping. Okay. This is going to be weeks 3 and 4. So let me actually put this. So this is week 1, week 2, weeks 3 to 4. So you can see how this is all coming together. You can add a duration column if you want to as well. You can really add whatever column you want, color coordinate it, put some conditional formatting, and make it fun. Okay, so first you're going to facilitate process mapping workshops. So we're going to start with that. And and again, you're going to identify owners for each one of these. Okay. So we're going to work through that. We're going to document process triggers, define inputs and outputs, really defining how you start and what the end result is, identify decision points. Who are the key stakeholders who really need to approve certain things along the way? But then also, what is the minimum criteria that somebody who's, let's say, a consultant who's working through different tasks, how far can they take it until they need a decision point from somebody else? So it's really important to be able to document that to minimize any bottlenecks. So map handoffs between departments. So really understanding what does this department own versus that department. So you may need to go through a more granular process here. Document systems and tools utilized. So that is really tied to what softwares are you using? What documentation process are you using? Are you using SharePoint, a Smartsheet, Jira, Confluence? Those are some of the systems and tools that we're talking about here. And then capture roles and responsibilities. So this is then to define your matrix and then create swim lane process maps. So you can use Visio here. You can use Miro. There's different tools that you can use. So based off of completing these tasks right here, the deliverables that you'll get out of this are current state process mappings, swim lane diagrams, and process documentation package. Okay, so phase number 4, This is where we will, through process analysis and gap assessment. Okay, so this will be week 5. And so you're going to identify bottlenecks. And remember, there was a process, document current pain points in phase 2. You can use that as part of identifying the bottlenecks, right? So you should see that as part of the pain points and that you can build into phase 4 as well. Then the next step here, we're going to analyze the process inefficiencies. We're going to review duplicate activities. And this is really important when you have one person doing one task, somebody else doing something similar but the same. That is considered duplicate activities. If you have something, a process where you do one thing and then you do it again, that's duplicate activities as well. So it's really important to work through that and document it. Then you're going to assess manual versus automated tasks. You may be a business where everything is still manual. So this is a good opportunity to see what are your tasks that you're doing that should remain manual because it's just critical, or what can you set up for automation as well. And automation doesn't mean ChatGPT because that's AI. AI is a category, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's tied to automation. It partially is, but not fully. So you definitely want to see where you're automating it. Is it scheduling emails, having templates set up? There's different things that you can work through and then blend it all together. So then you're going to identify compliance risks, evaluate communication breakdown, which is critical because that happens often when you have multiple teams involved. Assess role clarity and accountability. This helps with the evaluation of communication breakdown, because if you see that there is a communication breakdown where two people are talking about the same topic, but even there is a difference, that is a breakdown. Because one person, if the customer goes to two different people about the same topic, they may see different things. So assessing role clarity and accountability, who's responsible for what, is extremely important in this case. And last but not least, so we're going to do quantify process delays. So really understanding part of the handoffs between each process, what is causing a delay to get things done faster, where you could do automation versus manual. So based off of this assessment process or phase 4, you will get a gap analysis report, risk assessment, and opportunity matrix. Okay. So then phase number 5. So this is future state design. So this is the exciting part of saying what is not working well, but what does it look like and what you want it to look like. So this is about a 2-week process. So that will be week 6 and 7. And we are going to be talking about different tasks. So we're going to look at redesign workflows. We're going to look at eliminating unnecessary steps. We're going to look at streamlining approvals. Not type today. Then we've got define automation opportunities. And this will get easier once you start documenting everything in the prior phases. So this may seem very broad, but once you're in the actual step-by-step tasks, you're going to be able to identify it right there. You're going to improve role accountability to make sure that multiple people aren't doing things differently, or the same role doing it the same way, the same process, for consistency as well. You're going to establish standard workflows. You're going to develop an escalation procedure. So somebody doing the task, you really want them to understand, like, if this doesn't happen from an input-output standpoint, if there's something broken, you want them to understand where they need to go. You want them to understand what they are capable of doing but then where do they need to ask for help as well? And then last but not least, you're going to validate future state with stakeholders. So the stakeholders are typically more of at an executive level leadership. So it's really important when you're working through what the future state design looks like, you really want to understand what the current people are doing, boots on the ground, how they feel, what their bottlenecks are. So as part of phase 4, where you're doing the process analysis, you want to talk to the people who are actually doing the work. It is really important to get them included, have them feel heard, because that's where you're going to get the most value. Are you going to fix every single problem that they may have? No, but you're able to listen to them, document it, and see where you can possibly help. Even if they have 5 different things where they have pain points and you solve 3 out of the 5, that's already 3 more than what they had before. So it's baby steps that makes it, from a process improvement perspective, a positive impact on the individuals who are actually doing the work. So then we're going to phase 6. And this is my favorite part, is the SOP development and documentation. I am all about documentation because if it's not documented, it does not exist. You cannot hold people accountable. You cannot train anyone who is incoming from an onboarding standpoint, and it starts living in people's heads. Then at the same time, if it lives in people's heads, then it's going to be extremely difficult to be able to teach. And then even if you teach, one person may be teaching it one way, somebody else may be teaching it another way. So as you're developing this, think about it as a training program as well. As I am doing this and I'm talking about this, I'm actually documenting the process so that way the next person who joins my company, they're able to use this as a baseline for training opportunities. So this is excellent and really exciting. So let's keep going. So this is week 8. And so from a week 8 perspective, there are about 7-8 tasks here as well. So we're going to develop standard operating procedures. These are also known as SOPs. So the documentation is your core. Okay. So you're going to create the process narratives, develop work instructions, define process ownership, establish control measures. And this is really important for leaders because you want to understand like what the standard operating procedure says. This is how you expect things to be done, but you want to put controls in place to make sure that those expectations are met as well. From there, you're going to create templates and forms. And keep in mind, you already collected a lot of templates and forms. So doing an analysis of what was already provided to you as templates and forms, see what can be repurposed. So you're not redoing it or starting from scratch. Make sure that you're utilizing the tools and the data that's already out there and just enhancing it. Okay. Then you're going to develop process checklists. I love checklists where you can just check it off when things are done. And then standardize naming conventions. Have a whole sessions about naming conventions coming up soon as well, but it's really important to keep everything the same because if one person saves documentation one way, somebody else saves that different way, it's really hard to find. So really standardizing this process makes it so much easier for everyone. So from a deliverable standpoint, what you're going to get out of this is you're going to have an SOP library, so you can have more than one SOP again, break it down with exactly what you need, process documentation manuals, and standardized templates. Okay. And from a phase 7 perspective, we have governance and accountability framework. Governance is really important just to keep everybody accountable, but also informed of what's going on in the process, any risks. It's really important to talk about this on a regular basis, just to make sure that those who are not in the day-to-day are kept informed and they know what's going on, and that they may even be able to assist and remove some of the bottlenecks and blockers. Hopefully everything goes smoothly, but it's good to have all of that set up. So you're going to define the process ownership structure, develop develop a RACI matrix. And if you don't know what a RACI is, RACI stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed. So when you have a specific task and an owner, not everybody is responsible. Not everybody is accountable. So it's really important to define who needs to do what, who needs to be informed, who needs to be consulted, who needs to be accountable, and who's ultimately responsible for that task. So from there, you're going to establish KPI metrics, create reporting dashboards. Again, I love reporting dashboards, pulling the data even from a template like this to be able to say when are things going to start, they're going to end, who's responsible, what's the percentage completion, to really show the data behind it. Because a lot of thoughts and feelings are subjective, but when you actually have the data to drive behind a project or behind work, you're actually able to hold yourself to it, and you're actually able to explain the why behind it. So it's really important to have those reporting dashboards in place to be able to help and support you with that as well. Then you're going to define review cadence. So meaning that how often are you going to meet with the key stakeholders to go over the timeline and project, establish change management process. So this is more like if there are changes throughout the process, even when you are live with this project, is to really fall back to say, okay, if something needs to change, who all needs to come together to make a decision if it's approved or declined? Because all the work that people do think about it as times and material. Your time is valuable for every piece of the work that you do. So it's really important to be able to establish a change management to understand how much time, what's the level of effort that you're going to put into some of the projects to really define what that's going to cost you, but also as an organization. Okay. And then from there, we're going to develop a process governance model. Okay. So that is that. From here, you are going to get out of phase 7 a governance matrix, RACI matrix, and a KPI dashboard framework. So those are your deliverables on this particular item. Then the best part is the implementation planning. So really seeing it all come through. So there are a few tasks here that you're going to work through. So you're going to develop an implementation roadmap. You're going to prioritize process improvements. Think about it from a prioritization to what is critical? What are those quick wins that can quickly be done? What are the things that are going to take a little bit longer and that may need more involvement? So it's really important to really define what is low priority versus high, what is critical versus what is okay to wait a couple weeks. Create a training plan. So this is to be able to put everything out there for everybody to understand what's available and how to utilize the content that has been put together. Identify resource requirements. Establish a rollout schedule. And think about this, like who all needs to be made aware of this? Who needs to be part of a training plan? Who could benefit from a recording versus a live training? So think about those things as you're developing those training plans as well. Then develop a communication strategy and think about it two ways. One, from an immediate standpoint to make everybody aware of what's out there, but also think about it long term. If this is being processed, let's say it's June, but you have somebody being onboarded in November, make sure the content is still relevant when you're recording sessions as well, especially as things change over time. So, and if things change over time too, think about what does that look like from a change management perspective to keep up with the content and the data. And then we're going to define an adoption metrics. Okay, so that is phase 8. We're almost done. We just got 2 more phases to go through, so seems like a lot, but I like to be very detailed and make sure that it has everything that people need to be able to be successful. Change. Okay. Sorry, now I was going to say, so phase 8 was week 10, and then training is week 11. Okay. So the training and change management, this is the most critical part of what I just mentioned about thinking about the future. What can you do today? What's an immediate need today? But then what else can apply for the future? So you're going to conduct process training sessions, review the new SOPs, train the process owners, conduct stakeholder workshops, and especially those people who are actually going to be boots on the ground doing the work, they need to really understand this from start to finish. Then you're going to address resistance to change. There's always going to be somebody who does not like change, but change is good. Change shows that you're progressing as a business as well, and it makes it easier to adapt as changes occur as well. Then you're going to provide job aids and guides and process those as well. It's going to take time to create those. So if you have a marketing person, pull them in as a stakeholder to help you with this. And the key here is record all your sessions. That way you can utilize some of that content when you're creating your job aids. And then validate the process understanding, making sure that before you close the loop on the creation of everything, does everybody understand what their roles and responsibilities are? What are we trying to accomplish and why are we doing this? Because if you don't have the buy-in up front, it's going to be really difficult to get them to even follow the process that you put in place. And then last but not least, you got the project closeout and continuous improvement. So assign somebody to this. Who would be responsible to maintaining the changes? Is there a process that you're going to put in place, like a Google Sheets or forms through Microsoft where people can input their changes, where it all funnels into one document and somebody manages that one document to funnel through those changes? So you're going to do a final review of the process to make sure that you have everything that you need. Let me just work through this as I'm working through it, because otherwise I'm going to forget. Okay, then you're going to validate process adoption. Get people's feedback. Bad feedback is not the end of the world. It actually helps you understand what was missed, what can be improved as part of that process improvement. Measure initial KPI results based off of what you've put in place. Document lessons learned. Every project has its pros and cons. It takes some time, put a process in place on lessons learned, but a key piece of advice here is add the lessons learned document up front for each of the phases. Because if you wait until the very end, John Doe may not remember what was talked about in phase 1. That might have been 3 to 4 months ago. So it's really important to start asking those questions as we're progressing. Have that document be open to everyone to input. And then at the end, if you're managing the entire governance, go in and clean it up and get it ready for part of this as well. Then you're going to transition the ownership to the process owners. You're going to schedule ongoing review cycles. And these could be once a month, quarterly, or even annually. So it depends on how many people are working through this, how often does it change, just to stay in front of it. And last but not least, complete a final executive presentation. So that way you are closing the loop on everything. From there, from a deliverable standpoint, from phase 10, you're going to have a final process mapping report, continuous improvement roadmap, lessons learned register, and executive summary. And that lessons learned register, you'll be able to use that for future projects as well that you'll be managing and working through. So overall, this is pretty robust. You can continue to build this out. I'm going to add the task detail after this call, but this document will be available to you to download, get access to it, and start building your business process mapping project as well. If you need more information, I have additional trainings available on YouTube, as well as a podcast called the Optima Method, and more information on my website as well. I look forward to hearing from you. Let me know how you do. Let me know what works, what doesn't work. Feedback is good because that's how I can help and continue to evolve and provide the trainings to you as well.